You don't realize when your psychological extinction begins because it doesn't start with a bang. It starts quietly. A kind word said at the wrong time, a small laugh at something meaningless, a compliment you didn't stop to question, joining a conversation you didn't understand just to avoid being left out, feeling happy when someone says, "Everybody likes you," without asking yourself, "Do they like me? Or just the polished version I created so I wouldn't be alone?" The real disaster doesn't start when no one understands you. It starts when you stop trying to understand yourself, because you've gotten used to being understood in a way that's mass-produced, imported, prepackaged, like fast jokes and empty replies. The disaster begins when you become too social and think less than you should. Today's world celebrates social people. They're seen as successful, as smart, because they know how to talk, how to smile, how to make everyone feel important. But deep down, they might be the furthest from themselves because they've spent their lives translating other people's expectations, not listening to their own voice. Social people aren't rewarded for thinking. They're rewarded for being easy to deal with, easy to predict, easy to shape, easy to tame. As Machiavelli said, he who tries to please everyone is easy to control because his identity depends on how others see him, and if he loses that, he loses himself. Too much socializing isn't life, it's addiction. Addiction to claps, to replies, to attention. Addiction to feeling seen, even if it means being someone you're not. You stay connected, even if the words are empty, even if the conversations are full of silent noise, even if nothing real is said during hours of fake laughter and polite compliments. You're not there to understand. You're there to stay connected, to stay alive in their eyes, even if you're dying inside without realizing. Look at workplaces, family gatherings, social media. They all teach one thing: don't be heavy, don't ask real questions, don't make people uncomfortable, don't go silent, don't break the pattern, don't say no when they expect yes. Be warm, agreeable, friendly, and stay silent about anything that reflects the real you. Mass stupidity isn't forced, it's spread through niceness. When you're expected to laugh, you laugh. To show empathy, you pretend. To compliment, you do. To show interest, even when you feel nothing, because you've learned that smart means agreeing, going along, avoiding anything that might disturb the social peace. But what no one tells you is, all this soft, social behavior kills something inside you. Something that might have asked a question, something that might have doubted, something that might have disagreed, something that might have walked alone, silently, harshly, honestly, toward a deeper life. But now, it's trapped inside a socially pleasing image. The more people you talk to every day, the more likely you are to think like them. And the less time you spend alone, the harder it becomes to have original thoughts. Real thinking needs a wall that doesn't reply, a room that doesn't applaud, a night where no one is judging you. But how can you think freely when you're surrounded by eyes that expect you to be normal and ears that don't want you to be quiet for too long? People don't want you to understand, they want you to talk, but too much talking is poison for a sharp mind. Have you ever shared an unusual idea in a group? Watch their faces. You won't see deep thought, you'll see discomfort. You won't hear discussion, you'll hear efforts to bring you back to the mold. Groups hate difference because difference threatens their fragile balance of flattery and repetition. And every hypersocial person knows this. That's why they stay in the middle, never near the edges. That's the game. The more social you become, the more you must dull your mind to avoid disturbing the group. You learn to hide your sharp thoughts, to simplify your questions, to reuse the same jokes and words, to cover your existential worries with, "How was your weekend?" To hide your deep thoughts in a pocket no one sees, to polish the truth, then polish it again, until you convince yourself that this is what social intelligence looks like. But without realizing it, you start to lose something. You lose the solitude where depth is born. You lose the loneliness that ripens your questions. You lose that moment when you can say, "I don't understand," without fear. "I don't agree," without apology. "I am alone, and I'm okay with that." And because you've forgotten how to be alone, you look for anything to keep you connected. You reply to messages immediately. You join every conversation. You laugh even when you don't get it. You say, exactly to a sentence you never even thought about. You become present everywhere, but absent in your own mind. Is this intelligence? To become a mirror that pleases everyone, but looks like no one? To give up your deepest thoughts just so people don't call you complicated or cold or not social? To melt your edges in the group's sticky comfort because they only love you when you're soft? To live just to avoid their discomfort, not to understand yourself? But what if I told you? Machiavelli believed that solitude is not escape, but resistance. He believed being alone doesn't mean failure. It means you've started thinking politically. He believed true leaders aren't born in gatherings, but in darkness, where ideas ferment, where thoughts are still untouched by group pressure. You don't know when your extinction began, because psychological extinction doesn't make noise. It begins with a kind word at the wrong time, a fake laugh, a passing compliment, a conversation you didn't understand but joined anyway, a smile at "you're so loved" without asking, "Do they love me?" or just the version of me I created to be liked. The real danger begins not when no one gets you, but when you stop getting yourself. When you think in a group-made language and live a life shaped for public use, like quick jokes, auto-replies, and plastic smiles. The disaster begins when you become too social and think less than you should. Look around you, at social gatherings, workplaces, family events, and social media. They all teach you one thing: don't be too serious, don't ask real questions, don't stay quiet for too long, don't make people uncomfortable with truth, don't point out repetition, don't break the script, don't say no when yes is expected. Be warm, agreeable, friendly, and stay silent about everything that actually reflects who you are. Group foolishness isn't forced with power, it spreads through kindness. When you're expected to laugh, so you do. To show empathy, so you fake it. To compliment, to show interest, even when you don't care. Why? Because you've learned that being smart means agreeing, going with the flow, and never disrupting the comfort of others. But what no one says out loud is this: all this soft, polite behavior slowly kills something inside you. Something that might have asked a question, something that might have doubted, something that might have disagreed, something that might have walked its own path, quietly, honestly, even harshly. But now it's trapped in a pretty, social version of you. The more people you talk to every day, the more likely you are to think like them. The less time you spend alone, the harder it becomes to form your own thoughts. Real thinking needs a wall that won't reply, a room that won't clap, a night where no one's judging you. But how can you think freely when you're surrounded by eyes that want you to act normal and ears that don't want silence? People don't want you to understand, they want you to talk. But too much talking is poison for a sharp mind. Have you ever shared an idea that didn't fit in? Watch their faces. You won't see thinking, you'll see discomfort. You won't hear discussion, you'll feel pressure to return to the script. Groups hate difference because difference threatens the comfort built on repetition and politeness. Every overly social person knows this, so they avoid standing out and stay in the middle. That's how the game begins. The more social you are, the more you're forced to dull your mind, to avoid disturbing the group. You learn to hide your sharp thoughts, to simplify your questions, to repeat the same jokes and phrases, to cover up your deep worries with small talk like, "How was your weekend?" You tuck away your complex thoughts in a pocket no one sees. You polish the truth, then polish the polish, and convince yourself that this is social intelligence. But slowly, without noticing, you start losing something. You lose the silence where depth is born. You lose the loneliness that matures real questions. You lose the moment where you can say, "I don't get it," without fear. "I disagree," without guilt. "I'm alone," and I'm okay with that. And because you forgot how to be alone, you start clinging to anything that keeps you connected. You reply to messages immediately. You jump into every conversation. You laugh even when you don't get the joke. You say "exactly" to things you never really thought about. You're everywhere, but never really in your own mind. Is that intelligence? To turn into a mirror that pleases everyone, but looks like no one. To trade your deepest thoughts just to avoid being called complicated, or cold, or not social. To melt your sharp edges into the comfort of the group, just because they like you more when you're soft, to live just to keep others comfortable, not to understand yourself. But what if I told you? Machiavelli believed isolation isn't weakness, it's resistance. He believed being alone isn't failure, it's the beginning of real political thinking. He believed leaders aren't born in rooms full of chatter, but in the dark, where ideas grow slowly, untouched by group pressure. Still, you don't notice that most social people speak in ready-made phrases, tested, safe, harmless, words that don't trigger anything deep. That's how politeness becomes a quiet knife against truth. Courtesy becomes a daily performance, where every move is calculated, every smile rehearsed, every reaction pre-approved. We wonder why we feel lost even among people we love, why we laugh together but feel disconnected, because these relationships are built on an unspoken agreement. Don't shock me, don't make me uncomfortable, don't show me what I don't want to see, just be social, like me. So here's the real question. Who holds more power? The one who can be alone, or the one who fears being alone? The one who walks into negotiation needing nothing, or the one who speaks loudly to hide his inner fear? The one who walks against the crowd because truth is quieter than applause, or the one who claps for what he doesn't understand just to feel included? Society rewards the overly social because they make everyone feel good. They fill silence, break seriousness, keep things light. But they also shut the doors where big ideas come in because they never stop talking. They fear uncertainty. They don't let tension rise until it becomes a breakthrough. Overly social people don't fear being hated because they care about ethics. They fear it because it means their image failed, because being liked means everything. But this isn't morality, it's fear. The person who knows their own value doesn't need to be liked by everyone. They know honesty will make some people reject them. They know silence will sometimes seem like arrogance, but they don't care, not out of coldness, but freedom. And freedom isn't measured by how many people love you. It's measured by how many decisions you make without needing applause. Think of how many ideas you buried just to avoid being misunderstood. How many times you stayed quiet to avoid standing out. How often you said yes while your whole soul was screaming no. These aren't just polite choices. They're tiny wounds to your psychological backbone. Each one weakens you without you even noticing, until one day when you stand alone, you don't find yourself, because you've given yourself away in little pieces until there's nothing left. Machiavelli said, people judge based on appearances, not truth, because everyone sees but few think. And what better place to spread appearances than in overly social environments? Every social setting hides secret hierarchies, silent comparisons, and unspoken signals. That's why the expert social person never truly lives the moment. They watch themselves while living it. They track how they look, how their words land, how their presence is received. They don't speak from the heart, they speak from the mirror, the eyes of others. And the more they do this, the less they're really present. Because you can't be honest while watching yourself. You can't think while performing. You can't see truth while hiding what might upset the group. And what's worse, social people get rewarded. They're promoted, praised, admired, because they make everyone happy. But no one teaches them how to think. They aren't trained to debate ideas or ask hard questions. They're rewarded for being flexible, likable, reactive, agreeable. That's how society turns into a factory, producing people who are pleasant but shallow, nice but opinionless, involved but empty. Because opinions divide, but being social keeps everyone united, even if it kills truth. The person who's used to laughing with everyone faces a crisis when they must make a choice that only pleases themselves. They hesitate, they panic, they seek others' approval. They think 100 times before they act because they've lost the muscle of individual choice. They don't trust their inner voice. They wait for validation, applause, likes. And that's why they're easy to manipulate, not with chains, but with words, not with force, but with fear of being alone. Machiavelli knew anyone who fears isolation will do anything to stay accepted, and that's all it takes to make a slave without chains. But once you see all this, you can't go back. You can't sit in a room without seeing the stage. without noticing the masks, the recycled phrases, the fake laughs, the forced smiles. You feel like you're in a costume party where the one question you can't ask is, "Who am I?" Because that question ruins the game, and whoever asks it becomes a problem, a threat, an outsider. Once you notice these layers, you enter a new kind of loneliness, the loneliness of someone who knows and can no longer pretend not to, someone who sees the cage while others decorate it, someone who understands that too much talk doesn't mean connection, that a large number of relationships doesn't mean depth, that being known doesn't mean being real. And at that exact moment, your journey out of the herd begins, not by screaming, but by quietly stepping back, not with hatred, but with understanding, not with arrogance, but with reflection. You sit with yourself and say, "Enough talking, it's time to think." And now, with the noise fading and the layers of fake social comfort falling away, one question echoes in the silence. How much of yourself did you give away without even realizing? Because you thought staying connected was life, when it was actually escape. You thought being involved with everyone was strength, when it was quiet, surrender to the crowd's rule. You thought being loved meant you were right, but often it just meant you stopped thinking. Machiavelli never wrote to teach you how to be loved. He wrote to teach you how not to be eaten. He knew that people aren't defeated by their enemies, but by their desire for applause from their friends, and those who can't walk alone will follow the crowd, even if it walks straight into the abyss. So if there's one message to end with, it's this. Don't trust everyone who laughs. Don't follow those who know everyone. Don't admire people who can't stand silence. And don't believe you understand yourself until you've faced long solitude, because the moment you step away from the crowd might be the first moment you actually hear your real voice. And the more social you become, the closer you get to being the version others want, not who you truly are. So ask yourself, do you dare to walk away, or do you still need them just to believe you exist?